Welcome back to another Supercoach video with me, JD. We have finally finished the Fundamental series, which I do recommend you check out if you haven't seen them already, and we're going to get back into some regular Supercoach preseason content. Today we're going to go through my best 22 or rolling best 22 for the year ahead. This means I'm going to go line by line and kind of predict who I'm going to finish is going to be top 6 for the defenders and forwards, top 8 for the mids, and top 2 for the rucks, with maybe just one finishing just outside on each of those positions as an alternative option. This is just my opinion, of course, and it will change as the preseason evolves and we learn more about different players, injuries, positions, roles, in one individual's circumstances. Might be their court case that we have to wait on, but I'm going to go through and rank them row by row. So let's start off with the defenders, as we always do. So I think the first one to pop in is pretty obvious and pretty easy, which is Jake Lloyd, coming at a slightly discounted price this year, ultra durable. I think what we're seeing is probably towards the lower end, and we expect this to tick back up. But yeah, he's a 110 plus in my eyes. The next one I'm going to pop in is Aaron Hall. Once again, he's someone that's actually probably coming at a bit of a discounted price once you remove the concussion and the game he played forward last year. If he's someone that if he stays healthy, I've definitely got him in my top 6. I'm going to throw in two options that I see as quite the same. So Ridley and Short. I think these two will probably average about the same again this year, but I see them both improving their average. Ridley through being freed up with the addition of Jake Kelly to the Essendon side to take away some of those lockdown roles, and Short getting some additional points from not having Hooley in the team anymore. If you look at the splits with and without Hooley, performed much better without him last year. I think it was something like 5 points better. So I see both of them pushing into the low to mid 100s. Next, I'm going to go for a bit of a left field option in Jordan Dawson. I guess it's not that left field of an option, but he's someone that you do have to be a little bit careful about moving to a new team and figuring out whether he has a new role or not. Based on the latest preseason reports, we're hearing that he is going to play predominantly mid and wing, which I think is going to be positive for his score. He definitely played better last year on that wing position, and being able to move inside the midfield as well. I think that's good signs. One of the interesting things from last year is that we saw that even with the new kick-in rules, that the two top scoring back sixmen were both inside mids, which is Rory Laird and Mills. And so Jordan Dawson is currently my pick for the inside midfielder that's going to end up in the top 6. And then I need one more to round this out, don't I? It's someone that actually would have, this isn't really ranked in proper order of 1 to 6, because Lockie Whitfield is someone I would definitely have ahead. In fact, I think I'd have Dawson and Whitfield ahead of Ridley and Short at the moment. So Whitfield, we've seen the potential he has for scoring before, and it's almost regardless of where he gets played in the GWS system, he can score well, whether it's defense, midfield, wing, forward, he can kind of do it all. So he is someone that we are absolutely hoping we get 22 games out of, because if we do, then he is someone that should finish top 6. And I think as my outside option, I'd pick someone like Crisp or a Maynard. It'll be probably one of the Pies defenders that I think could be the one that also gets top 6. I mean, Crisp did it last year. He's once again ultra durable. I think he's probably holds the record at the moment for most AFL games played without missing one. And it's probably at risk this year with COVID protocols, who knows. He went nearly 105 last year, which was great. And, he could do that again. I think with Crisp and Maynard, both of them have had them role moved around a little bit, going defense, going midfield, going back again. And I'm seeing conflicting preseason reports now about where they're going to end up and what roles they're playing. And with a new coach, that's always a little bit of a risk. But one of those could definitely be the one that pops into the top 6. All right, jumping into the midfielders next, and we'll clear these out because unfortunately I don't have an unlimited money hack, so I can't pick them all. Into the mids. So I think the first 4 options are really easy. We just do this. So all of these players have showed they're both durable, but also high or premium scorers in Supercoach. McRae's done it for the last 4 years. Steele and Miller are probably the two that are newer on the scene, and then Oliver's also got a body of work that shows he's right up there. And we've also heard some positive things in the preseason about him getting in shape, cutting down on weight a little bit, just to improve himself, improve his game, and to improve his endurance and his running. So yeah, I think you can't go wrong with any of these. The things I really like about both Steele and Miller is that their scoring comes from a wider range of avenues than say an Oliver or McRae, and in particular that comes through their tackling. The interesting thing about Miller, which I like as a stat, is that people are worried about him getting tagged, but he, in the 4 games that he was tagged last year, he had the highest average in games. Like, it's nuts. His average went up in games he was tagged. So that's a good sign. And I don't think Steele is someone that can really be tagged either, just because that's kind of his background, that defensive mid, and he has other avenues to score through tackling. So he just very solid option. I think Steele's probably my first picked midfielder of these 4 at the moment. But yeah, I think they should all finish top 8. The next ones I'm going to throw in here are Tom Mitchell and where is he? He's down a bit. Lachie Neale. Once again, this isn't really in order, but I want to group them together just because they're somewhat similar stories in the sense that Mitchell and Neale are both players that have finished number 1 as a midfielder in Supercoach before, but are coming off various levels of injury. Mitchell's leg break was obviously a little while ago now, but we saw towards the back end of last year that he was really over it and getting back to that Tom Mitchell of old. So really positive signs there. I think he can continue that on this year. And with Lachie Neale, once again, very injury interrupted season last year, and he's someone that I am predicting gets back to his best and pushes that 120 range. Now, filling out the midfield is actually really difficult because there's lots of players I think could do it. I think Sam Walsh is one that I would absolutely put in there. He is a young gun that looks like he could be the best midfielder in the comp with his two-way running and his skills and his ability to kind of do everything in the midfield at the moment. It's just phenomenal. Obviously, there's some worries about him tagging, but I do see him as a young midfielder that's continuing to improve. And I think adding in players like Hewitt to help with the defensive duties as well should help Walsh from a Supercoach perspective. So yeah, quite optimistic on it for him on the year ahead. And then I think betting against Bont is probably a bad move. So we'll put him in here at number 8. So yeah, I've really only got Lyons missing so far. And in defense, actually, I had Zeeble, Stewart, and Rich. I should probably just go over why I had them missing this year. Zeeble, I think, will regress. I don't think he's going to get the same friendly role. I think Hall will take some of the kick-ins from him. I just don't think this scoring is going to keep up. Stewart, I'm quite pessimistic about him returning from the Liz Frank injury and going back to basically his best season on record. So I'm fading that. And Rich, this was a season out of the blue for him, jumping up to that 107. He's also on an age. I know I'm assuming everyone's going to be healthy for the full year. I don't think that's a great assumption with Daniel Rich. So yeah, he's someone that I just don't have in the top 6 at the moment. So then other midfielders could make... Oh, sorry. And then Jared Lyons, obviously the midfielder that I'm fading. I think with Neale back in the side, he gives up some of those points. And he's also one that I just don't rate as highly as a footballer as some of these others. He's obviously a very good footballer. And I tend to just back in the players that I think are actually very good at football when it comes to some of this rating stuff as well. So ones that could sneak in, I think you've got Laird and Parrish, obviously, and then Petraka are probably the 3 that I'd point to that I have sitting just outside that could come in. But this is really hard. You could make cases for Mills if you really wanted to, Brayshaw, Kelly. There's lots of really good midfield options here. But these are kind of the top 8 as I have it, and then maybe 3 to consider on the outside. We will quickly get rid of all those. And we'll go into the rucks. And I think the rucks are going to be quite easy because there's really not that many options to pick from. So I have at the moment, and once again, this isn't really in order, but I have these as the clear 1 and 2 at the moment. Darcy, we saw last year, just him really break out, and he managed that 118 despite having a bunch of small niggles and injuries that kind of held him back throughout games. So this score would have been even higher than what we see here. And is someone that I just see continuing on. He, by all reports, is in ripping shape. Now, his version of ripping shape isn't, I think, what the traditional AFL footballers looks like, but apparently he's continued to improve that fitness and that physique. And he's hopefully someone that doesn't get injuries this year because he is someone that I can absolutely see pushing into that 120 plus range. And then Grundy, I've got tipped for a little bit of a bounce back. I mean, I had him tipped for about a bounce back last year, and that didn't really come to fruition. It was someone that reportedly didn't do as well in the COVID hubs, and like I guess there was restriction stuff still going on last year, so maybe you could continue that excuse. But I think we're going to have it again this year, so I mean, maybe that continues to affect him. Nick Nat is obviously like a very high points per minute player, but we just can't trust him to get the time on ground that'd be required to finish top two reliably. And then Gorn, who I absolutely love, we saw at the back end of last year his Supercoach average dip with Luke Jackson getting more and more game time. And I think that's something we can expect to see this year as well, especially given how important Gorn is to their side. They want to make sure that he's rested and not overused, and it makes sense to develop Jackson at the same time. So I think we do see his scoring subside a little bit as Jackson continues or really continues to take over ruck duties from aging Gorn. The only other ones, I mean, like Gorn would be my third pick at the moment, but I think the only other ones you could look at is maybe Rowan Marshall to, continue improving, breaking out, or like Omac is a pretty interesting option as well. But really, I don't think they're hold a candle to either Darcy or Grundy. And then to finish out the rolling best 22 to start off the year, the hardest position by far, which is the forward line. Really, there's like one pick that I love, and it's that because he's shown it really last year, but he's shown it more than once that if he's fit, if he's playing in that Dogs midfield, he's got absolutely elite scoring in him, well into the 100s as an average. So Dunkley's a great place to start. I think of the remaining top six, I like Duncan and Taranto. Duncan, we've seen enough to kind of suggest he can get back to 100, either playing in that half-back role and getting some of those cheap kicks or playing through the midfield. And then Taranto, I think we saw like a regression last year just because he was used more forward than what he has been in the past. And I don't particularly rate his kicking skills, which hurts him in Supercoach, not so much the fantasy or dream team formats, but that'll hold him back from, I think, being like the number one or really pushing up. But I think we can kind of expect a 95 plus from Taranto again, which should be enough for a top six performance. Hawkins, I guess I'll fade, like always fade key position forwards, even though Hawkins done it for a few years now. Obviously really good, but yeah, I'll bet against him. Stringer, like he is someone that could impress. His average on the run home was 110 after the bye or something ridiculous. So he has it in him to be a top six forward if he played that 70-80% CBAs that he was playing on the run home for Essendon. I just don't see that happening this year with Essendon's midfield contingent returning to health in the likes of Shield, Caldwell, McGrath, and then obviously the emergence of Parrish as well. So he will still continue to get CBAs. Is it enough to get a top six? I currently don't have that as the case. And then Dusty, I mean, one of the Supercoach heroes of old, but he's getting on an age and, returning from that injury, I just can't reliably put him in my top six at the moment. At least I don't think so. Let's figure out who else we've got in here that we like as an option. So yeah, as I mentioned at the start, we may have to wait for court cases, but we'll throw in Degoe for now, which is if he gets off or is able to play from round one, then I guess I've probably got to put him in there. Just one of those players that looks like he's primed for midfield time. Anytime we can select midfielders playing forward, that's always a good thing, and he showed some great scoring in their last year. Butters is another one which I'll tip for a bit of a breakout. So we saw in the first 3 or 4 games last year that he, in that mid role, he absolutely had 100 plus average in him as a potential, and then unfortunately got injured, which is why we get him at a discount this year. He should be priced much higher than that. The fourth game he got injured in, he was on like 110 or something at halftime and got scaled back to in the 90s. But he was on track for a 200 when he got injured, which is pretty scary. There's not too many forwards like that, so popping him in looks nice. And then for this 6, you could have Stringer, you could have Dusty, you could have Treloar, depending on what role he gets. You could have Bailey, who on Match Sim reports today was apparently playing a little bit more midfield, which is quite promising. Taron Thomas, who's class. And then I think the one I'll put in for now as a nod, a tip of the hat to George, is Isaac Heaney, the man that he has a love-hate relationship with. So This is purely on the back of Longmire suggesting that he's going to be playing 70% mid-time, 30% forward. And once again, we're looking for forwards that are playing any other position but forward. And Heaney fits that mold. And in fact, it's a common theme in the team. Heaney, Butters, DeGoey, Taranto, Duncan, Dunkley should all be playing predominantly midfield with then maybe a little bit of forward or back time kind of thrown in. And Heaney is one that sounds like he's tipped to play more midfield in 2022, which is a great sign. Obviously, he has had injuries and missed games here and there, but it's quite a common theme in this forward line. If you look at it like Duncan, Butters, Heaney, I think even DeGoey hasn't got the best injury history. Dunkley obviously has had a couple of shoulder problems. As mentioned, I think Stringer is someone that you could look at, or a Bailey or a Tarantoramus or a Trelaw. There's lots of interesting options. And I think nailing the forward line is going to be particularly tricky and something we're going to have to work on over the preseason, because getting the few that are going to break out and really get that mid-time and avoiding those who are going to be stuck forward is going to be critical. But yeah, this is my rolling 22 to start the season. Let me know what picks you agreed with, what you disagreed with, and who you think I'm underrating. Otherwise, we'll continue to update this as the year goes on.